Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors. Would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Well, tonight we are thrilled to have the Bucks County Youth Singers joining us to sing the national anthem. The Bucks County Youth Singers are under the direction of Michelle Wietrowski. The singers range from ages 7 to 17, and they reside in Middletown and the lower Bucks County area. The Bucks County Youth Singers have performed at Voices of Bucks, the Chamonix Hall of Fame dinner, and they will once again be performing on stage at Middletown's annual holiday open house that takes place this year on Thursday, December 12th. Bucks County Youth Singers, take it away.
See by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
We're coming from football games and sports things and all kinds of things. So.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, Ms. Corporal, would you please call roll?
Absolutely. Mr. Kizak?
Here.
Ms. Hannah? Here. Ms. Payne? Here. Ms. Kane? Here. Also in attendance tonight is Township Manager Ms. Tully Cools, Assistant Township Manager Ms. Bala, Township Solicitor Mr. Esposito, Township Engineer Mr. Kessler, Chief of Police Joseph Bardarelli, Police Captain Pete Feeney, Director of Building and Zoning Jim Ennis, Director of Parks and Rec Paul Capera, Director of Finance Megan Badara, Director of Public Works Eric Gardemeyer.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. Couple of upcoming meetings. The first, our next budget workshop. This will be the second budget workshop. This is Monday, October 28th at 6 p.m. That'll be here in the Township building upstairs. And then our next Board of Supervisors meeting will be Monday, November 18th at 7 p.m. Next on the agenda, we have some special items, the first being the swearing in of two new police officers, Officers Fernandez and McDonald. Before we do that, though, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge Chief Bardarella on 10 years of service to Middletown Township. Chief, we thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kizak. I appreciate that. Although 10 years in policing is really nothing, but I'm very happy to be here, and like I always say, very blessed to be here. We have a great police department, so I'm very happy to be part of our police department and part of Middletown Township. So with that, we do have two new officers to swear in tonight. First, I'm going to call up Officer Christian Fernandez. Right here, Christian. I'll just read a short biography on Christian. Christian Fernandez is a dedicated law enforcement professional with a decade of experience, including 10 years of service with the Philadelphia Police Department. His passion for public safety began at the age of 15 as a police explorer in Philadelphia, where he honed his commitment to community service and developed a deep understanding of the importance of trust and collaboration between law enforcement and the community. Christian is devoted to advocating for those in need and building strong, positive relationships with the people he serves. A proud father of two, he values spending quality time with his family and enjoys boating and traveling, which help him maintain a balanced and fulfilling life. We are very happy to have Christian on board. Next, I'll call up Officer Trevor McDonald. Trevor McDonald is a proud lifelong resident of Middletown Township and a graduate of Neshaminy High School. He recently completed his training at the Temple University Police Academy, graduating on October 11th. Before embarking on his law enforcement career, Trevor served as a community service officer for our police department and furthered his education at Westchester University. Passionate about sports and physical fitness, he thrives on staying active and engaged. Trevor comes from a large, close-knit family that remains the cornerstone of his life, reflecting his strong commitment to community and family values. And with that, I will have Christian and Trevor go up stage and on the stage and be sworn in by our board chair, Mr. Kizak.
Do you guys have somebody who want to hold the Bible for you?
Doesn't matter.
No?
Any family members you guys want to bring up? Christian, any family member you want to?
Yeah, come on up. All right, give that to you. We'll do you first, Officer McDonald.
Okay.
Just repeat after me, all right?
Okay.
I state your name.
I, Trevor McDonald,
Solemnly swear
to support and
the
defend
United States Constitution,
the United States Constitution,
the Constitution and laws of Pennsylvania,
the Constitution and laws of Pennsylvania,
and the ordinances of Middletown Township,
and the ordinances of Middletown Township,
with duty, honor, and fidelity,
with duty, honor, and fidelity,
as a Middletown Township police officer.
as a Middletown Township police officer.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
I state your name.
I, Christian Fernandez,
Solemnly swear
to support and
to support
defend
the U.S. Constitution,
the U.S. Constitution,
the Constitution and laws of Pennsylvania,
the Constitution and laws of Pennsylvania,
and the ordinances of Middletown Township,
and the ordinances of Middletown Township,
with duty, honor, and fidelity,
with duty, honor, and fidelity,
as a Middletown Township police officer.
as a Middletown Township police officer.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Christian. Yeah. One second. Great. Thank you, Mr. Kizak.
Thank you, Chief, and congratulations, and thank you to Officers Fernandez and McDonald, and welcome to Middletown Township Police Department. Next on the agenda, we have several proclamations. The first, and you know what? I know there's a lot of folks that were here for the swearing in of the two police officers. If anybody wants to leave now, I'm not going to make you stay for the whole meeting, so feel free. We'll pause for a second if anybody wants to go. Happens every time. We're not offended. All right. First is a proclamation recognizing Betty Stout on her 101st birthday. And it reads, whereas Betty Stout was born on September 30th, 1923 in Trenton, New Jersey, and has reached the extraordinary milestone of 101 years of life, living a century filled with wisdom, love, and resilience. And whereas after graduating from Trenton High School, Betty embarked on a career with the Trenton Banking Company, where she met and married her beloved husband, Ralph Stout, in 1947. Together, they enjoyed a wonderful life filled with joy, dancing, and love for bridge. And whereas Ralph encouraged Betty to pursue her dreams and experiences she had missed in her youth, leading her to discover passions such as swimming and golf, the latter of which she enjoyed into her 90s as a proud member of the Hopewell Valley Golf Club for over 50 years. And whereas Betty has been an active, devoted member of her faith community, beginning at Ewing Presbyterian Church and later joining Lawrenceville Presbyterian Church, now attending services at Pennswood. And whereas Betty has been a beacon of love, guidance, and inspiration to her family, including her 3 children, 7 grandchildren, 7 great-grandchildren, all of whom cherish her deeply and describe her as the hub of the family's wheel. And whereas Betty's life continues to be enriched by the friendships she shares with both fellow residents and staff at Pennswood, where she is admired for her capacity for friendship, her passion for justice, and her enduring spirit. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors, on behalf of all of its residents, proudly recognizes Betty Stout on her 101st birthday. Middletown Township Board of Supervisors proclaim this day the 21st of October, 2024. Next, we have a proclamation recognizing Community Planning Month in Middletown Township, and that reads, whereas change is constant and affects all cities, towns, suburbs, counties, boroughs, townships, rural areas, and other places, and whereas planners can help navigate this change with data-driven insights and expertise that better provide choices for how people work and live, and whereas community planning provides opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices that determine the future of their community, and whereas the full benefits of planning require public, elected, and appointed officials who understand, support, and demand excellence in planning and plan implementation, and whereas the month of October is designated as National Community Planning Month throughout the United States and its territories, and whereas the American Planning Association endorses National Community Planning Month as an opportunity to highlight how planning is essential to every community, and how planners are uniquely positioned to identify solutions to communities' most difficult housing, transportation, and land use questions, and whereas the celebration of National Community Planning Month gives us the opportunity to publicly recognize the participation and dedication of appointed Planning Commission members and who have contributed their time and expertise to the improvement of Middletown Township, and whereas we recognize the many valuable contributions made by the professional community and regional planners of the Middletown Township and extend our heartfelt thanks for the continued commitment to public service by these professionals. Now, therefore, do we, the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors, hereby proclaim October as Community Planning Month. Middletown Township Board of Supervisors proclaim this day the 21st of October, 2024. Next, we have a proclamation recognizing October as National Disability Employment Awareness Month in Middletown Township, and that reads, whereas people with disabilities have long strengthened our economy and expanded our nation's possibilities, during National Disability Employment Awareness Month, we recognize the immense contributions of disabled Americans, and we recommit to delivering America's full promise of equal dignity, respect, and opportunity for every American. And whereas while national legislation has made significant strides toward equal opportunity for people with disabilities, there is more work to do. People with disabilities are 3 times less likely to have a job, and when they do, they are often paid less money for doing the same work. And whereas the National Disability Employment Awareness Month, we celebrate all people with disabilities who have moved our nation closer to realizing that ideal, and in the process have made America more prosperous, inclusive, and humane. And whereas in recognition of the vital work done by the Middletown Human Relations Commission, we acknowledge their continued efforts to ensure that initiatives like National Disability Employment Awareness Month are respected each year, fostering greater inclusivity and equality within our community. And whereas the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors celebrates the progress we have made, may we continue to open the doors of opportunity even wider for people with disabilities by advancing access and equity. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors that October be proclaimed as National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Middletown Township Board of Supervisors proclaim this day the 21st of October, 2024. Next and finally, we have a proclamation recognizing Fire Prevention Month in Middletown Township. Before I read that, though, I believe our fire marshal is going to say a few words. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Kizak, thank you. Board members, thank you. What I would like to do is just give some background information on fire prevention, the overall about fire prevention and Fire Prevention Month. It's a very busy time of the year for the fire service across the country. However, in Middletown Township, it's been very busy for our personnel as well, both career and volunteer. We just recently had our Fire Expo, had a good turnout there with regard to giving out information and some of the events that we had there, and each one of the fire departments hosted their own fire prevention expos at their station as well. In 1922, the National Fire Protection Association named October 9th, the week of October 9th, as Fire Prevention Week. They named the month October as Fire Prevention Month. However, the week is based upon the fire that occurred in Chicago. There was a great fire in Chicago back in October 8th, 1871. This fire pretty much took out the entire city of Chicago at the time. Roughly 3 square miles of Chicago, killing 300 people, left over 100,000 residents homeless, destroyed 17,000 structures. And that was all based upon a drought. And the drought and high winds were a contributing factor for causing the fire and the conflagration that occurred. Across the country, this was pretty much determined that it was a myth that came out. There were a lot of people turning around saying, yeah, it was, there was a Mrs. O'Leary's cow kicked over the lantern which caused the fire. That was truly a myth. There was really never a cause determined based upon that. So at this point in time, it was a learning lesson for everyone, and that's one of the primary fires that pretty much established Fire Prevention Month and Fire Prevention Week. From that point on, the country's growth really grew through the 1900s. There were numerous fires across the country, ranging from multiple fires in dwellings all the way through to theaters, industry fires, because the continued growth throughout the country led to people just continuing to build and build and build. Nobody ever took into account the fire component. And a lot of people were careless. They used the various types of heating components which caused fires, and there were numerous deaths. Based upon that, when we got to the 1970s, the federal government, at the time, President Nixon put a committee together, and the committee was put out there to research and find out why we were having so many fire fatalities and so many fires across the country. So that research ended up being done, and it came out, and there was a document that was printed. It was called American Burning, and that was released in 1973. Numerous areas were identified by the document. The fire deaths and injuries to both the public and firefighters. Over 6,000 civilian deaths were occurring each year. Over 150 firefighters were being killed each year. From that point on, led to numerous actions through various organizations, NFPA being one that was enforcing a lot of code issues. So they wanted the codes enhanced. They did that. They also presented information for firefighter safety and survival. So all that grew and grew and grew. And then we get into, we move fast forward to 2022, and we look at the statistics there. So we have more stringent codes in place. However, we're still experiencing about 3,800 deaths of civilians each year, and 94 firefighters die each year. So it's still occurring, even though we're preaching, even though every fire department's out there, and we do it throughout the year. Our department does, and I know there's multiple fire departments that do it throughout the year. However, the message just doesn't get out there that much. You know, it's not being adhered to. So what we're looking at is just trying to get this message out to the residents, making sure that the residents and the public at large have an understanding of what fire prevention is and the reason behind it. And the theme this year that NFPA put out was smoke alarms, make them work for you. And basically what I would like to do is just have some tips, so throw some tips out there for everyone to make sure that you test your detectors monthly, that you change the batteries annually, and you clean them semi-annually. And know that there's a shelf life on smoke detectors. It only lasts for 10 years. After 10 years, you're going to find your smoke detectors may start beeping and chirping. It's probably time to replace them. So that was the information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Harris. And I think I referred to you as Fire Marshal. Don Harris is our fire chief. I apologize. Thank you for those tips, and thank you to you and your whole department for all of the fire prevention work you do year-round for the residents of our community. It's really, really important. I appreciate you bringing that to everybody's attention tonight. And so then, with that in mind, I will read the proclamation recognizing Fire Prevention Month in Middletown Township, and that reads as follows. Whereas Middletown Township is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living, working, and visiting our community, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are where people are at greatest risk, and whereas home fires kill more than 3,500 people in the United States each year, according to the National Fire Protection Association, and fire departments respond to more than 360,000 home fires per year, and whereas working smoke alarms cut the odds of dying in a reported home fire in half, all residents should install smoke alarms and alert devices that also meet the needs of the deaf and hard of hearing in every sleeping room and on every level of the home. And whereas homeowners should test their smoke alarms monthly, as 3 out of 5 home fire deaths occur in homes without working smoke alarms. And whereas Middletown Township's first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas the 2024 Fire Prevention Week theme, Make Alarms, Make Them Work for You, strives to educate everyone about the importance of having working smoke alarms in the home. Middletown Township Board of Supervisors proclaim this day the 21st of October, 2024. Okay, that brings us to public comment. So this is public comment on non-agenda items. Is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Just please come up, state your name and address in the microphone. Yes, sir.
Hi, Dave Cahill, 462 Cynthia Ave, Pendle. As everyone's aware, I was here last month for the meeting, asking questions about the Pendle Fire Company's loan documents for Tower 8. Just curious if in the last 6 weeks, if any of the supervisors or the managers have met with anybody from the fire company to ask any questions about the loan application.
I have not. I don't know if anybody else has. No, does not appear so.
So at the last meeting, you said that you would, that there were questions you were going to meet. There were meetings with the fire company. You were going to ask questions. Have there been any meetings with the fire company?
Nope, not yet. We're still in the process of trying to schedule meetings with all of the volunteer fire companies, but there haven't been any since the last time we met here.
Okay, so I came to the first meeting I came to was in August. And there hasn't been, from what I understand, there hasn't been any meetings since June with the fire companies?
I'm not exactly sure when the last meeting was. I mean, we've met with them many, many times over the last several years, but I couldn't tell you when, as of today, when the last meeting was.
There's no meeting scheduled through the end of the year, from what I understand?
As I said, we're in the process of scheduling. There's just a lot of people involved, and so a lot of schedules that have to be coordinated. We had some tentative dates, but we're still working on it, so
Okay.
it's in the process.
I found out last month after I walked away from the microphone that you're a lawyer, Mike.
I am.
So I think you're dancing around my questions a little bit, and I'm not surprised.
Okay.
So my question tonight is it against the law to lie on a loan document?
I'm not giving you a legal opinion. I'm not here as a lawyer. I'm here as a township supervisor, so I'm not answering that question.
So can anybody else offer me an answer to that question?
The board's not answering that question, sir.
Okay, so in September, I received the mailer. This is the Pendle Fund Drive letter, the yearly fund drive letter. I would like to make the fire company an offer they can't refuse. I will donate $500 to the fire company if they let me see the loan application.
We're not the Pendle Fire Company. I mean, they are a separate entity from the township. I have no control over them. They have their own board, they have their own
Yep.
president, they have their own chief.
So
you
you've
can
been
make
saying that, you've been
It's the
saying that
truth.
at the last 3 meetings, but the fire
It's the
companies
truth.
have to report.
But that doesn't give me the power to accept a donation and to show you their documents. You have to make that request to them.
So I'm making the fire company an offer that they can't refuse right here at this microphone, because I know they're listening. I know they're watching, and I know they're listening. I have a $500 donation for them if they show me any and all loan documents, so I can see if they indeed told the truth about their income.
Okay?
I don't think that's unfair at all. $500, but I want to make sure that the documents show that I receive for the $500, that shows income that they listed, the bank name, and the signatures of who signed the loan documents from the fire department. I think the message has been sent. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on non-agenda items? Yes, ma'am. Just please state your name and address.
Sure. My name is Miss Rachel Fullen, and I'm at 423 West Richardson Avenue. We wanted to, my neighbor, the Jowetts, who live next door to me on West Richardson, we recently had an issue with our chickens, and we realize now that they aren't permitted in the township. There are ordinances against it. It wasn't reported by any neighbors, so we wanted to, we started talking to people in the community, and it seems like a lot of our area townships do permit chickens with certain regulations around them. So as we started talking to people, whether it's online or in person, we noticed a lot of people said, well, everybody in Middletown has chickens, but it's crazy, or my neighbor had chickens. So there's chickens out there, and whether there's problems or people have to come around to get rid of them, we're asking that an ordinance be put into place like many other neighboring communities, including we're 2 doors outside of Langhorne Borough. So if we could throw a stone, and I realize that's just the way it is, but Langhorne Borough permits chickens, Humeville, all these neighboring counties have certain stipulations with chickens. So we were just asking that there be a door open to some kind of conversation about it. And you might ask, why do you even want chickens, especially during this economy? And as we saw in with COVID, food source supply could be I guess, wiggly at all times. So my kids help take care of our chickens. They're our pets. They have natural pest control, waste reduction. There's mental health benefits to them. And it's actually, as of January 2024, chickens are the 3rd most popular common pet in the country. So I realize that this might not be the case 10 years ago, but I think things are changing with people making their own food and the rise of sourdough bread creation and wanting to know where our food comes from. So we aren't asking for a free-for-all for chickens or even just us fighting our own that we want our chickens. We're looking for the board to take consideration of even opening the gates for that. And we have heard about certain things that would be concerns, including noise, odor, pest, waste management, and disease. And we had put together a document that kind of outlines what we would suggest as being previous chicken owners of that. So noise, obviously not permitting roosters in the area. Odor, a lot of odor is caused from people not taking care of their coops. So in the ordinance, it would have to be certain stipulations around that. And also pests, if you keep your food away from the chickens and keep it in a basement, you're not going to be getting pests because they're not coming for it. So like I said, we had outlined an ordinance that just kind of went similar to area townships and what their ordinance was. So we just wanted to open up the gates to maybe just see if you were willing to have any conversations about keeping chickens, no roosters, in a small quantity just for personal use for eggs.
Well, thank you. And I don't want to speak for the whole board, but certainly willing to have a conversation.
Okay, we would love that.
And take it into consideration. And I'd be
Okay.
interested in seeing your proposal and
Yes, we would
the
appreciate
ideas
that.
that you have. Okay.
Yes, we would love that. And like I said, I think it's just like a change of the times. And if you even look online or just even talking to people in our community, one of my good friends lives down the street in Langhorne Borough, and in 2020, the borough put into place a new ordinance. And we actually put a change.org out there just to see if we were crazy, and maybe we were just talking to people of like minds. And without really any effort online, we collected over 500 signatures in only a couple weeks of people saying yes. And it wasn't even just chicken owners. It was people saying, I don't care if they have chickens, or it's your right to do what you want with your property if you want a couple of chickens. So we really would appreciate just talking about it.
Okay. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts, questions about that, but certainly always willing to have a conversation and review, take into consideration
Okay.
your ideas.
Awesome. Thank you. What would be the next steps then?
Mr. Esposito, what would be the next step?
Well, if you want to, if you could somehow, I'll give you my contact information. If you
Wonderful.
want to send what you have, your proposals
Okay.
to us.
And we
can
have
take
physical
We can take a
copies
look at it,
as
start
well.
having a conversation. I will myself look at neighboring municipalities, their ordinances on
Okay. And I do have physical copies that I could leave for everybody of just like some of the things I mentioned. And then this was just a rough ordinance proposal, so this isn't set in stone. It's just, like I said, based off of what we've seen. And then also like the concerns with whether it was odor or pest. We think that having the ordinance have certain verbiage in it would help with any of this. And even like having to have a certain amount of square footage, so it's not people with like hardly any property keeping many chickens, and a certain amount of chickens you can have and how you keep them. And thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
Good evening. My name is Bill Everett. I'm at
Hold on.
286.
Can you just give us 1 second? I just want to let her finish. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Just please state your name and address.
Good evening. Good job. Good evening. My name is Bill Everett. I'm at 286 Hidden Spring Lane in Langhorne. I would like to share some concerns I have regarding Lake Luxembourg, which is within Core Creek Community Park in Middletown Township. I think Core Creek Park is the crown jewel of our county parks in Bucks County. The park is fed by Core Creek that runs south under Route 332 from Newtown Township, then along Lower Silver Lake Road to Core Creek Park and Lake Luxembourg. The problem is that the Newtown Bucks County Joint Municipal Authority Board is planning the construction of a sewage treatment facility on Lower Silver Lake Road in Newtown Township, adjacent to the floodplain and Core Creek that feeds Lake Luxembourg within Core Creek Park. You may ask, why worry? The environmental assessment should be thorough. Well, construction of the new Wawa on Lower Silver Lake Road is delayed because a tunnel must be drilled through the bedrock under Core Creek, running adjacent to Lower Silver Lake Road to allow wastewater to bypass. The planned sewage treatment facility is just down Lower Silver Lake Road from the new Wawa. I respectfully request that you investigate the sewage treatment facility project to make sure that a detailed environmental assessment is made regarding the wastewater from the proposed project before it proceeds any further. A mistake will have long-lasting negative impact on Lake Luxembourg and Core Creek Park. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and of course, we are aware of the project, and we are certainly investigating. Actually, Supervisor Kane is sort of taking the lead, and we're, I believe, arranging to have the authority come and meet and speak with us so we can get a better understanding of their plans and the timetables, because obviously it concerns, it's not a Middletown project, it's a neighboring township, so we're a little bit limited in our ability to be involved, but we are taking an active interest.
But it is a big impact if it doesn't go well to our Core Creek Park.
Understood.
Do you share my concerns?
Absolutely, sure.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other public comment? Mr. Warren, long time no see.
Some would say you haven't missed much.
No.
Andy Warren, Shady Brook Drive. I am not an attorney, but I have been accused of having common sense to the gentleman who was here before, and my common sense comes a lot cheaper than attorneys. But it would seem to me anybody who falsifies a legal document would have some problems with the document. That's question one. And point two, I understand that in the relative near future, the supervisors are going to be considering a stormwater ordinance or vote or project. And if that is accurate, my questions would be, do you have an option of enacting or not enacting a stormwater project? I understand that over a period of 4 or 5 years, it would be hundreds of thousands, $1 million. And if, in fact, the board has an option, what happens if, is there a penalty if the board doesn't enact it? Who's telling us that we've got to, you have to enact it? And the other point is, does it entail? I know what a stormwater is, but is it just digging up the hole right where the water runs into the street, or will there be pipes? Will roads be built, be dug up to connect the various storm waters? Thank you.
Yeah, so I think I understand your question. I guess in the first instance, it's a little premature for us, only insofar as we have appointed a stormwater board, and that board has met several times. They had a public information session, I guess a week ago. We are waiting for feedback from them, and we expect that will happen soon, and they will give us their recommendations, but we don't have those yet. So I can't answer you with any certainty as to exactly what this will look like or what it will entail. Like any other advisory board, we engage them to give us their advice and opinions, and so when we have that, then at some point, I imagine we will be making a vote on some action. I'm not sure I understand the second part of your question, though. I don't think, and I might ask Mr. Kessler to sort of jump in and give us some guidance on what exactly happens if we move forward. I don't think we're talking about one comprehensive stormwater plan for the whole township. Is that true?
Yeah, the meetings that we've had with the Stormwater Advisory Committee have really been focused on if you look at the bulk of the effort to maintain and improve the stormwater infrastructure in the township, it's a hefty price tag, right? As the age of the system gets older, there's areas of the township that need more robust infrastructure than in decades past, and to try to identify how to sustainably make that something that the township can continually do projects to improve the system. That's what the advisory committee is looking at. So in the sense where, as the gentleman's saying, if there's something that would be voted on to fund that specifically, that's the discussion being had, is where's the best way to make sure that that can be properly funded, so that between the funding that the township can set aside as well as grant opportunities, you're able to kind of make as much progress as you can to maintain the system and improve it going forward.
So we're a little bit disadvantaged because we don't have all that information yet from the board, but I guess...
Nor do I. That's why
Absolutely, we're in the same boat. But I think the question is, and I think the question is fair, is it going to be a project-by-project situation where each individual project would come before the board for a vote and a funding request, or is there something going to be more broad and comprehensive?
The process of how projects get done wouldn't change.
Right.
They would still be publicly bid projects. They would come before the board to advertise, to consider what the scope would be, and then when they are bidded on, the price of that can be awarded or declined, depending on what the outlook is for those projects. So in that regard, the process won't change. It's just a matter of how to best get it done.
I understand that, and I'll stop with this, but thank you for that, and thank you for that. My concern is EPA saying to Middletown, Falls, Southampton, you all have to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in your stormwater system, or do the supervisors in those various townships have an option of saying, well, we don't think that it's time, or we're not going to an update? That's my point. Is this...
I don't want to speak for everybody. I think from my perspective, stormwater is a problem in this township as it is in every township in this region, and we are trying to be proactive in figuring out a way to manage it. It's one of the complaints that we hear from residents most often, and we've been sort of so far taking an ad hoc or piecemeal approach to dealing with it, and the thought of the board was it's time to do something more broad and to figure out a long-term solution to fix our infrastructure. What exactly that looks like, I don't know. That's not happening because the EPA is telling me you have to do this. It's happening because I think us as a board and our township professionals and our township staff have decided that it's time to look into this further. That's
what-
In addition, DEP is requiring us to address water quality issues through the MS4 program. So it's
That's correct.
both.
yeah.
Okay.
There are regional requirements, the MS4 that we talk about annually. That's a regional requirement to keep the system healthy, to keep it up to date, to keep the water clean in the streams and the waterways. That's the permitting side, which is through the DEP. They don't have stiff penalties per se that they outline, but they do have reduction goals for the region that Middletown Township's a part of with the Neshaminy Creek and the different watersheds.
At some point,
Along with that would be the capital projects that we do now and that we would look to
Right.
continue, which is
At
trying
some-
to invest in the infrastructure so it doesn't continue to deteriorate and then is more expensive to try to fix at a later date.
understood. At some point before it shows up on an agenda and I can't talk about it, taxpayers will have an opportunity to pursue what the project's about, correct?
Well, I mean, I think we've been trying to do that. Again, the Stormwater Committee has been meeting 4 times. And then we had an open public information session a week ago where we opened the doors and we had samples of pipes out here sitting for people to come and put their hands on. So we're trying to
Okay.
get public engagement.
And if you
Whether
want-
people hear us is another question, but.
If you want to contact Nick or I, we can share with you the information that was distributed at the Stormwater Committee meeting.
Given
open
my
house.
choice, I'd contact you. Thank you.
Any other public comment on non-agenda items?
Yes.
Go ahead. Name and address, please.
Hi, Beth Pollock, Fir Tree Road, Levittown, Pennsylvania. Before I speak, I just wanted to hand out an article I thought you'd all be interested in, which is relevant to what I'm going to say. This article is from a Thriving magazine, which is for senior citizens, the fall 24 edition. And the article is called Trees of Ages. And it's about a woman, Mira Nakashima, who is continuing the legacy of her father, George Nakashima, who had Nakashima Woodworkers in New Hope. He passed away in 1990 at the age of 85. And I thought this article, I'm just so glad I read it. I happened to read it a couple of days ago. It's fascinating. And I wanted to give you all a copy, and in a moment you'll understand why I'm giving this to you. So. All right. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I was at I believe, the August 12th Board of Supervisors meeting where the Restaurant Development Company of Fort Washington, Montgomery County, their representatives came to the meeting, and the townhome community was approved for 1700 Woodburn Road. The thing I want to say is that I volunteered for a year and a half at the ERA food pantry, which was in the back of the old Eisenhower School on that property. And a lot of times I would walk there in the morning and get a ride home. And I would walk across this beautiful, big vast expanse of lawn in front of the school. And there's these at least 10 big old trees that must be as old as Levittown itself. I mean, they're magnificent. And the reason I want to give you this article is that I don't know how far along the Westrum Development Company has come in their architectural plans, but if you go up Woodburn Road and see where this property is, these trees are magnificent, and I really feel that Middletown Township is part of Bucks County, which is a very creative, unusual place when you think about it. I really feel that it would be absolutely sacrilege for these trees to have to be torn down because of this architectural plan. I feel that, I know that they're going to try to make it, with new trees and all that, but I really seriously feel that it would be sacrilege for these trees to be cut down. And I feel it would definitely be an asset to the people living there, I mean, this, you know, new community, that they would be so glad to see these big old trees stay there, and that these trees, you know, the people that live there, it would enrich their lives. And I feel that, you know, Levittown could use a lot of inspiration. And when this community is built on Woodburn Road, you know, the cars going back and forth, I think they would just be so glad to see these big old trees. And another thing is, I believe Middletown Township acknowledges Earth Day, you know, Earth Day in April. So I think preserving these trees is right up the alley of Earth Day. And the other thing is, with climate change, you know, you hear in South America that they're destroying the rainforests. Well, you know, if we want to conquer climate change, how can we tell other people what to do if we are just going to sit back and let West Rum Development destroy these trees? These trees are so old, and I hope you read the article, because it's very interesting, the Nakashima woodworkers, you know, woodworking trees. And I mean it. Please do not let West Rum Development, all right, they want to build this community, but please make them realize, tell them they've got to save these trees. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment on non-agenda items? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Board. Thank you for being here. Lance Seggers, 98 Queen Lily. I had the opportunity to go to the stormwater presentation last week. And some of the, I guess, the things that I came away with is, as far as the price tag, I mean, I think that the stormwater and infrastructure is always a good idea to invest in. My questions would be is, if we are going to levy a new tax, where does the money that is currently in the budget get allocated to? If the estimated was like 1.7 million that this new fee would bring in, where does the money currently allocated in the budget go to? Does it continue to go to stormwater? Do we build our infrastructure back quickly? Does that fee need to continue to stay in place after 5 years? Would there be a reconsideration of that fee? It looked like you guys were trying to minimize the impact of homeowners with a $5 a month fee. However, I started looking at the structure and going, if we're going to start taxing businesses, which I understand why, I go, well, aren't we really just going to pass along the price of this tax on the consumers? So really my portion of it's not going to be $60 a year. Whatever the increase in prices of those local businesses, I'm going to be seeing additional. So those are things that I came away with going, hey, these questions probably need to be answered before we start levying a new tax. How are we going to do this in the appropriate manner? And it just doesn't give, and I'm not taking a shot at the board a slush fund to kind of do what they want after we do this tax. Also, I think as far as improving the infrastructure, it's not just the age of the system. I've been coming to this meeting for, 5 or 6 months now, railing against the fact that we just keep approving development. And I keep being told, well, the board doesn't really have an idea as far as changing ordinances, all that. We need a third party. But I haven't heard from the board or anybody what the cost of hiring an outside law firm to address the underlying issue of we are overdeveloping. Our infrastructure can't take more developing. We have another development that was supposed to be heard last week that got pushed to November. And they are asking for multiple variances that this board is going to have to hear. And every board meeting I come to, these variances just get pretty much approved, which I go, why are we helping developers build when we shouldn't be? So those are things that we are addressing some of the issue, but we are not addressing all of the issue. And if the board wants to be proactive, my position is don't just be proactive, taking tax money, fixing part of the issue and not the whole issue, which is the overdevelopment, which is putting stress on the system and causing these stormwater issues, okay? outside of that, the chicken thing, I think I hear that as well in the community. I don't think it would be a bad idea for the board to consider what she has presented, because I hear that from just people I know in the community as well. So, thank you, board.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Christopher Nowakowski. I live on Alberts Way in Langhorne, and I've lived there since I was 3 years old. I stood before this board 2.5 years ago to address the topic of hate speech in our community. I shared gross social media postings made by who at the time was one of Middletown's elected auditors. The supervisors, many of the same faces that are here tonight, were kind enough to listen. But not only did you listen, you spoke out. You stood up for decency and respect. You put out a strongly worded statement in the days after that meeting, calling out hate speech, affirming everyone's right to reside in our community with dignity, to be who they are, and to do so without fear of being targeted simply for being themselves. And I can't thank you enough for that. After that meeting, Supervisor Dana Kane spoke up. She chatted with then Chair of the Middletown Republican Committee, Pat Mallon. Mr. Mallon put out a strongly worded statement as well, indicating that there was no place in our community or, in fact, the Republican Party for such hate speech and anti-Semitism. His words were unequivocal. In fact, he called for the former auditor's resignation, not only from her position as auditor, but from the Republican committee as well. So kudos to you, Mr. Mallon, for being on the right side of history. Within 2 days of swearing in, the tenure of what I'd assume to be the Guinness World Record holder for shortest timed auditor in elected history came to an abrupt end. Christy Ann Morris resigned. Levittown Now wrote it up, Courier Times did a piece, as did Yahoo, Bucks County Beacon, Patch. The Anti-Defamation League put out a statement. Channel 6's Action News even produced an on-air segment. But that's not where the story ends. Fast forward to this spring, primary season. Running for a slot on the Middletown Republican Committee? You guessed it, Christy Ann Morris. And she won. 186 votes for, 30 write-ins against. Now, these races are so sleepy that I only stumbled across the result just a couple weeks ago. And to say I was disgusted would be an understatement. So I went to the Middletown Republican Committee meeting this past week. Our elected tax collector, Ray Chapman, also the chair of the Middletown Republican Committee, was there. So I took the floor and asked why an anti-Semite and admitted purveyor of hate speech had been welcomed back onto the same committee just 2 years after her forced resignation. I wanted to know what had changed. Mr. Chapman's answer? Well, nothing had changed. He insisted the executive committee, in fact, agreed with former Chair Mallon's original statement. Could have fooled me. If you agree with his condemnation and assertion that there was, quote, no place in our party or in our community for these anti-Semitic words or posts, if you echo those words, well, why haven't you done anything about it? Ms. Morris was elected 6 months ago, and since then, crickets. Or how about before, when you knew she'd be running under the banner of Middletown Republicans? Why not summon the decency to tell her no, that we do not want you on our committee, that people who spew this sort of trash really do not have a place in our affairs, and that you should just stick to your post-elected official life. Just stay away. But alas, that was a bridge too far. See, former Chair Pat Mallon not only put out that unequivocal statement, he followed it up with action. Mr. Mallon knew, as we all know, words without action ring hollow and can be meaningless. Mr. Chapman insisted they take up the issue in the executive committee. Oh, will you? You knew about the anti-Semitism before last week. You knew about the targeting of Jewish members of the community. You knew about the hate speech. Yet, they didn't do a darn thing about it. So what's it going to take? The September 11th was an inside job perpetrated partly by the Israeli Mossad intelligence agency. That wasn't enough. The COVID vaccine being a Jewish conspiracy aimed at reducing the Christian population. That wasn't enough. Even Ms. Morris's pièce de résistance of reposted anti-Semitism. CDC Director Rochelle Walensky is a Jew. CDC Deputy Director Ann Schuchot is a Jew. I'll spare you the rest, but this post shared by Ms. Morris names 14 separate individuals. and each line ends with 3 words: is a Jew. Who gives a damn if they're Jewish? Well, I know someone who seems to care. She's a member of the Middletown Republican Committee, which is chaired by our very own tax collector, Ray Chapman. Now, if I were the cynical type, I might suppose that hate speech and anti-Semitism is A-okay, as long as someone like Miss Morris does the political grunt work, right? She drives to Doylestown. She knocks on doors like a good little worker bee. She volunteers her time, just as long as she doesn't cause a scene, right? Well, guess what? Here's your scene. This is a disgrace. Willfully turning a blind eye to hate speech, brushing blatant anti-Semitism under the rug, looking the other way when members of our community are targeted just for being who they are. This is an abject failure of leadership. There's a famous quote I recall every once in a while, and tonight, the past few weeks really, is one of those moments. The quote is, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. So do something." Mr. Chapman, everyone else. I have the post here. If anybody's interested and is unaware of what they are, I'm sitting right over there. I'm happy to share. Stop over and say hello. I have nothing else to say. Thank you.
I would like to speak, if I may. Okay. My name is Fran Grouse. I'm the Republican Committee. I'm sorry. He's got me so upset because I believe he's got a personal vendetta against Christy Morris. Christy Morris is a good person. He's the only one that's complaining. Christy went up on the primary, and she was elected to be committee woman. This man comes to our committee meeting the other night. He comes here in front of all these people and talks about her. Yes, I believe that Christy made a mistake, but I believe that she's paid the price for that mistake. She resigned, and now she's a very active committee woman, and she's doing a great job for the Republican committee. The people elected her. What did you say, 186? Did you say 186 people?
Do I have the floor to speak as well?
Okay, anyway, we've got one man against 186 people that voted for her. I didn't vote for her because I'm not in her precinct, but she's got my vote. I think this man is very out of line to go to all of these meetings for whatever reason. I don't know what his agenda is, really. What's your agenda?
Can I tell you what my agenda is?
Please.
My agenda is that I take issue with hate speech, Jew hate, and anti-Semitism. And in Middletown Township, that just happens to be right now purveyed by a woman on the Middletown Republican Committee. If it were a Democrat, I'd be all over their ass too. But they're not the ones doing it. It's Christy Morris, and I've had enough of it. That's why I'm here, to speak out for members of our community who are too afraid and too worried to speak out about hate speech. That's why I'm here.
Okay.
I don't have an agenda.
Does anybody in this room support this man and agree with him? Do you support him, Andy? Yeah. Okay, I'm not saying what she said was right, or
Has she apologized for it?
yes, she has.
Oh, really? I didn't
Yes,
know
and
that.
she stepped down. And I think it was 2 years ago.
She was forced
You were just going to continue to carry this and carry this and carry this.
You're
I don't
damn right
understand.
I am.
I don't understand why.
You're damn right I am, because there's no statute of limitations on Jew hate and anti-Semitism. Just because
She
2 years
has
have gone by,
apologized.
She doesn't have an open green light to come back on a committee as an elected person in this
And
community.
how do you have the right to come to every meeting in Middletown Township?
Call the question.
I have the right to speak my mind.
You do.
Everybody else has the right to do what they want afterwards.
You're
That's
exactly
why I'm
right.
here.
Okay.
You want to normalize it and okay it?
I'm
Knock
not
yourself out.
normalizing it.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
You
I
should
have
be ashamed of
Jewish
yourself.
son-in-law, I have Jewish grandchildren.
You should
And
know better.
I love them.
You should know better.
Thank you, folks. If
have
you guys want to continue, if you guys want to continue your conversation, you can, but
Finished.
we're going to move on. Any other public comment on non-agenda items? Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address.
Lynn Rutecki, 2 Quaker Hill Road. I don't actually have a question. I actually came to say thank you. I'm very appreciative of the fact that you work as hard as you do. It's a thankless job. I would never want to do it. And I teach 8th graders, so there's your bar. However, I have been defending all of you over and over again on social media in regard to our waste management trash changes that are coming in January. We are a community of 12,000 people. and you have the job of trying to figure out what solutions need to be made and how to best do that for the community. I think it was wonderful that you sent out a survey and you attempted to get the community's opinions and what they were looking to do. It's unfortunate that out of that 12,000 people, only a quarter of our community responded. And so then when it came time to vote, I feel personally, and I know many of my neighbors agree, that you made the fiscally responsible decision to vote in favor of the community instead of voting with the majority, which really was 1/3 of 1/4 of 12,000 people. That being said, I walk through our neighborhoods every single day. Today was actually my 105th day of walking in a row. I walk through Quincy, Cobalt, and the Gates every single day, and I can tell you firsthand that most people, more than half of those neighborhoods, do not utilize 2 days of trash. At most, they use one. Some houses use one every other week. That being said, it is our turn as a community to start doing the environmental thing to make sure that our community is cared for, not only for ourselves, but our children and our children's children. So I applaud you in making that decision and for choosing the decision that, again, like I said, was fiscally responsible. I know one of the next issues, as brought up tonight, is stormwater management. It does not personally affect my house because I am on a hill. However, it does affect my family, it affects my neighbors, and it affects our community overall. So as much as there is a difficult choice to make, I do hope that you will make a decision that will help those that are eventually going to lose their homes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other public comment on non-agenda items? Yes, name and address.
My name's Helene Ratner, and I just want to thank, not because I'm on the board, but I want to thank the Park and Rec Board and all the township employees for grooving at the gates. Anyone who did not go to the event, you missed a great event. I especially am looking forward to the event next year. I want to give kudos to Paul Capera, Patrick Graham, Joanne Morelli, and Nicole Tenner. And you did a fantastic job. Even though the weather wasn't great, we had great attendance. All the vendors were fantastic. The 7-band was unbelievable. And anyone who attended really had a fantastic time. And like I said, it was a really good event. I'm sorry that we had to cancel it last year. It was great having it this year, and like I said, I know next year is going to be even better, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ratner, and I'll share that sentiment and thank our Park and Rec Board, Mr. Capera, Ms. Tenner, everybody that was involved with putting that event on. I also, I was going to say this at the end, but I'll take the opportunity now since we're on the topic. Next year's event is already scheduled. It's going to be Saturday, September 27th, 2025, so Groovin' at the Gates will be back. And I also want to take the opportunity to extend our sincere thanks to 2 prominent local businesses without whose generous support in sponsoring Groovin' at the Gates this year, the event would not have happened. And those businesses are Eastern Auto Parts Warehouse and James Day Doherty Funeral Home. Their ongoing commitment to the community really were the reason why this day could be such an incredible success, and so we look forward to building on that partnership in the future. I want to thank those 2 businesses, in addition to the Park and Rec Group, Department and Board for all of their work. So thank you. That was a great event. Any other public comment on non-agenda items? Going once, going twice. All right, we are going to move on to consent agenda items. And those are as follows. Item A, consideration of authorizing payment of the October 21st, 2024 bills list in the amount of $3,534,304.74. B, consideration of approving the September 9th, 2024 minutes of the public meeting of the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors and the budget work session minutes for October 14th, 2024. Consideration of approving stipulation of settlement of tax assessment appeal of Lowe's Home Centers, Inc. for property located at 1400 East Lincoln Highway. Item D, consideration of approving change order number 1 for the summer recreation bus services contract. And item E, consideration of the sewer planning module release or rather Resolution Number 24-19R for Worthington subdivision in support for the proposed sewer planning module. Item F is actually being withdrawn and will be tabled until a future date. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items as stated.
Thanks, Ms. Payne. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Ms. Corporal. There's been a motion and a second. Any board questions? Questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Next on the agenda, consideration of authorizing the purchase of one Hallmark TS8520 T4 trailer. Mr. Gottmeyer.
Good evening, Board. There's something we planned in the budget, which was voted on. I'm just getting around to getting it this year. It's a little late. I apologize for that. We went out and looked at 4 different vendors. What you have in front of you is the vendor that came back with the cheapest price for the trailer that we thought would best suit our needs. The trailer is being utilized for all the lawn equipment. We currently have 2 right now. We still have an open trailer. Unfortunately, last year, it hasn't happened this year, but last year we had some stuff stolen while the guys were out at the park cutting in other places. So this is one way that they take all the equipment out they need, the lawnmowers, they lock it up, and that way everything's safe. So that's one of the reasons. The other thing is to keep the equipment out of the weather when they're out and it starts raining or whatever, instead of getting all the equipment wet.
And I think, I don't know if you said, and the funding for this is coming out of the road machinery fund? Right?
Yes. Yes, this is coming out of the road machinery fund, which is a separate tax. It will not impact the capital budget at all.
Any questions for Mr. Gartenmeyer? If not, I can accept the motion.
I make a motion. Oh, sorry.
It's all you.
I got excited. I love reading these ones with all the letters and the numbers. All right. I make a motion to move to authorize the purchase of one Hallmark TS8520 T4 trailer from Hennessy Trailers of Levittown, PA for a total of $14,390.20.
Thank you, Ms. Hannon. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any board questions? Any questions from the public? Yes, sir. Got to come to the microphone. The public can't hear you.
Eric Breno, 79 How many pieces of equipment have been stolen in the past year?
So we had 2 weed whackers stolen and 1 blower in the past, not all in 1 year, in the past 2 or 3 years.
Oh, that sucks.
Well,
I didn't know that.
it happens, believe me.
Thanks. Yeah, it does.
Any other questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gartmeyer. Next on the agenda, consideration of authorizing the advertisement for the Middletown Stormwater Pipelining Project. Mr. Kessler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Fellow board members, the project that is before you this evening requesting authorization to bid is a stormwater pipelining project. There's a few different methods to restore stormwater pipes and pipes in general that are in the ground. One is to open cut, replace them entirely. This is a method and procedure that allows you to line the inside of the pipe as long as you can access it from both ends, and then they're able to basically restore the inside, give it additional life, and not have to cut through the ground to get there. The reason we look at this as the best option for the locations that we have listed for this project is that there's utilities that might be in conflict that are above it. There's areas that would be underneath private property fencing, some other property items that you basically want to avoid if you can not disrupt those and fix the pipe at the same time. The way we are looking to bid it is to have one listed as the base bid, all the other ones as alternates, which will allow the township to consider, once the bid pricing comes in, how it would best fit in budget planning and how to best do basically as many as we could for the funding that we have allowed. So this is a request to advertise it for bidding. The decision of when the bids come in to award and how many locations that would be able to be funded would be reviewed once the bids would be opened, most likely either the end of this year or early next. This work would look to be done most likely early 2025 if the funding would allow it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
What was the budget amount for this project?
There wasn't a specific line item set aside for pipelining. There are emergency repairs and stormwater kind of upkeep and maintenance that's in the budget. This kind of spawned out of that, and then going forward, it's something once we get the bidding of current prices for the lining for these locations. They do vary in length, which will affect the linear footage for the pricing. We'll have a good idea of hopefully where it could be funded going forward. And we talked a little bit earlier about stormwater infrastructure in general. Obviously, this is stormwater related, so when the pricing comes in, that can be information that we can assess to identify how it could possibly be funded.
Other questions for Mr. Kessler?
Yeah, Mr. Kessler, I'm just wondering, if we do this project, what's an expectant, like, how long could we expect this to hold the pipes and to work effectively?
It does have a good history of pretty much restoring the inside of the pipe almost like new. So if you have a pipe, a lot of these locations, the interior is deteriorated, whether it be a corrugated metal or something that just is worn down over time. This puts basically a resin liner inside, makes it pretty much like a new pipe on the inside, should give you decades more life on the pipe that you're repairing.
All right, thank you.
And none of these areas are kind of on the radar for being kind of too small of pipes for where the area is. Like, if we rehab these pipes, they're going to be able to handle the amount of stormwater that comes through these areas.
Correct, yeah, these have been assessed with our office, with the Department of Public Works, areas that really their main issue is that they've deteriorated, the bottoms have kind of worn out, and therefore once that happens, the soil around it will then start eroding away and you'll have some sinking, especially in some of the lawn areas and the private property areas. So these are areas, to your point, they handle the water flow, they just have kind of lost some of their inside pipe.
Can I ask a question? Are they all going to be done in this order, or it's based on the urgency, and when will we know the order of that?
Well, they're all considered important to fix. As far as the order of the list, that can be mixed and matched any way that we kind of would like to once the bids come in. As mentioned, it would be a base, just to identify one as a base bid, and then the other ones all listed as alternates. So it doesn't matter which order or how you want to piece them all together. Ideally, you can do all of them, but otherwise we can choose ones that would be kind of the most prudent, and then other ones to hopefully follow up with at another time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, if not, we can accept a motion.
I make a motion, I'm sorry.
No, go.
I make a motion to authorize the advertisement to solicit bids for the township's Middletown stormwater pipelining project.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Payne. It's been a motion and a second. Any board questions at this time? Questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carries 5-0. Next on the agenda, consideration of approving ordinances number 24-03 and 24-04, authorizing execution of cable franchise agreements with Verizon and Comcast.
Thank you.
Ms. Tilly-Cools.
At your last meeting, you authorized 2 ordinances that would authorize execution of our expiring cable franchise agreements with Verizon and Comcast. The Comcast term is 10 years, the Verizon term 5 years. We have both include an assessment of a 5% franchise fee. Both agreements expand the definition of gross revenue, which will maximize revenues. Both agreements emphasize customer service standards, and both agreements also provide dedicated funding for the public education and government PEG access channels. So we, As staff are recommending that you authorize these ordinances this evening, and that will permit you all to sign off on them, and we will have in place agreements with both cable operators. Everything's been advertised appropriately, by the way.
Any questions? If not, I can accept the motion. Okay, I'll move to approve ordinances 2024-3 and 2024-4, authorizing execution of cable franchise agreements with Verizon and Comcast. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any board questions? Any questions from the public?
Keeping the Big Ten. That better be in there.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Passes 5-0. And that brings us up to our trash and recycling contract update. Mr. Valla, taking this one?
Yes, good evening, supervisors. So as the community is, I'm sure, very familiar, the board earlier this year put out to bid and subsequently awarded a contract with Waste Management for trash and recycling services with some pretty significant changes from what residents are used to. We'll get the slides up on the screen momentarily. And as folks are familiar, Waste Management was the lowest bidder. Just to reiterate, I know we shared in this room several times before, the service as required by law was put out to bid and Waste Management was the lowest bidder. Yes, if you can believe it, there were actually 2 other companies that provided bids to do the service for even more than Waste Management is going to be doing it for. I don't know if the folks in the AV room can hear us to get the slides going. There we go. So just a highlight of some of the changes coming. Of course, the biggest one is going to be once a week collection, as well as the transition to automated trash collection. So that's going to be the wheeled carts that are picked up by the actuated arm on a truck. Folks' collection day and the holiday schedule is going to be adjusted slightly as well as the schedule for bulk waste. So I'll kind of tackle each one of those one at a time. So the first one with automated pickup and wheeled carts. So the first one is cart delivery. So residents in mid-December or so can expect 2 wheeled carts, 96 gallons to be delivered to their homes, 1 for trash, 1 for recycling. And then the next bullet up there, you'll see the effective date. So you might have them at your home for 1 or 2 weeks before you are supposed to use them, and you'll get some materials from Waste Management with some more exact dates, but the week of January 6th, so the first full week of January next year, will be the first week for you to utilize those containers. So all of your New Year's waste can go in there. And then just a quick note about cart placement. Again, you'll see some more information from Waste Management about this. You'll put the wheels to the curb, or if you don't have a curb, then you'll put the wheels back to your house. Collection day. So everybody in the township currently has their trash collected either Monday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Friday. The vast majority, not every single home, but most homes will keep one of their existing days. So if you're Monday, Thursday, likely you will have one of those days remaining the same, and so on. There are going to be some folks who do shift to Wednesdays, just to note that. The biggest change, I think residents will really like this, is all of your waste is going to be able to be put out on the same day. So it's not trash and recycling one day, bulk waste a different day, yard waste has its own, all of that's done. So you'll be able to put all of your waste out at the same time, set it and forget it. Note about holiday pickup, the impacted holidays are not changing, but the actual schedule is. So the new schedule will be whenever there is a holiday, any days in that week through Friday are all going to get pushed a day. So if there's a Monday holiday, the entire township is getting pushed a whole day. And again, you'll see some more information from Waste Management about that. Bulk pickup, this is probably going to be the biggest change for folks to get used to. So currently, folks have once a week collection that is going to once a month collection, but you can put out 2 items at the same time. That is going to be the 3rd week of collection. Again, the materials coming from Waste Management will make that very clear about which week that is, but it'll be the 3rd week of regular collection. And again, you can put that out the same day as the rest of your trash, recycling, and yard waste. And residents can, if you have additional items, or if, for whatever reason, the schedule doesn't line up for you, you can request an additional pickup for a fee depending on what the item is. Yard waste, the frequency is not changing, so it's still going to be once a week. It's still going to be April through January. The only change is just the day, so it's now going to land on the same day as your trash and recycling, so it's a little bit more convenient to remember when to get it out there. And then for some folks who have been asking, what am I doing with my old trash or recycling container that I don't have a need for because I'm getting a new one, you can repurpose it for yard waste if you would like. And the limitations on yard waste are still staying the same. Just a quick note, we have been encouraging folks to begin to register with Waste Management. The full services of their online application are not fully available. That'll come out much closer to the new service changes coming in January. But folks can begin to register and basically preliminarily set up their account with Waste Management. And this is really going to be setting us up for 21st century communication that I think a lot of us are desperate for. So you don't have to wait on the phone for sometimes hours. We've heard from some folks. You'll be able to interact directly with Waste Management. So if you have a missed collection, if you need to request an additional cart for folks who would like one, and any of those kinds of additional services or interactions. And it also works the other way too. If there's ever a weather delay, if there's a snowstorm and they can't come out one day, if you are registered with them, they'll be able to contact you through that system and say, hey, weather's bad, we're going to be coming tomorrow. That way you're not getting caught off guard. And just one other note, we'll be sharing more information about this, but anything that's a CFC containing items like a refrigerator, freezer, they are requesting that folks request specifically those pickups. It'll still be included with your bulk, but just because it's a separate truck that comes for those. And lastly, for folks who are in one of these 4 neighborhoods, Terryton, Hollybrook, the Villas of Middletown, or Windy Bush, you guys are going to be keeping your manual collection. It's still going to once a week, and again, we'll be communicating with you what day that is for collection, but you are still going to be providing your own containers, and the existing limits will still apply. And then for anybody who is hearing this for the first time, who maybe lives in an HOA neighborhood that contracts your own, this obviously would not apply to you. So if you have an HOA that coordinates your own trash, obviously that's still handled by your HOA. It's not changing. So just a quick thank you. If you have any questions as this continues to roll out, there's an email specifically set up for any trash questions. It's trashfaq@middletownbucks.org, or simply contact us here at the Township Building. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Valla. I don't know if any board members have questions. It was very thorough, comprehensive.
I just had a quick question. We had talked about some of the residents might need exception, and how would they request that or go about doing that?
Sure, like an accessibility exception. Yeah, so residents who have that need to simply contact us. We are kind of accumulating a list to work with Waste Management about how to accommodate those folks who need that.
Are residents who don't use, these are awfully loud tonight, residents who don't use the internet, older folks, will they be able to call and arrange for things?
Yeah, so the existing phone number, the 1-800 number that folks are used to, that is still staying the same, but for anybody that would like a more digital forward method to communicate with Waste Management, that now option is still there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, that brings us then to other business. I'll start with you, Mr. Valla.
I just wanted to quickly recognize our intern. It's her last week, Allie Garrett. She has been part of the manager's office team throughout the summer and into the fall. She's a grad student at Villanova in her second year. She has her first full-time job now in local government and over in Delaware County. So we're very excited for her, although it's definitely coming at a loss to our team. We're very excited for her.
Thank you very much. Good luck. Mr. Kessler.
We did want to mention just the CDBG ramp program that was awarded a few meetings ago for folks in that neighborhood in Cobalt. They have the locations marked out. They're still getting a few things together, but we did confirm with them as far as when they're starting the actual work. It'll be after the Halloween holiday, so they were not looking to disturb the sidewalks and the corners during trick-or-treating, and we'll continue to update residents with their schedule as it comes out. So,
Thank you very much, Mr. Kessler. Mr. Esposito.
Yes, thank you. I just want to announce that the board did hold an executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss litigation and potential litigation matters.
Thank you. Ms. Tealy-Cools.
I have nothing, thank you.
Ms. Corporal.
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Payne.
I just wanted to say happy birthday to Betty, 101. Happy birthday, that's pretty awesome. And I just wanted to, being Disability Employment Awareness Month, I just want to say how grateful I am that everybody here goes above and beyond to make sure that our community is inclusive and we are forward-thinking as we look at renovating parks and making sure they're ADA accessible. Our multimodal plan took that into consideration as well. When we do the curb ramps, and we try and ramp up how many we do to make sure that our community is accessible for everybody living with invisible and visible disabilities. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Payne. Ms. Kane,
Nothing further.
Ms. Hannah.
I wanted to say congratulations to our new officers, Christian Fernandez and Trevor McDonald, and to the youth singers. They did a wonderful job.
And I just want to thank the EAC-led volunteers who participated in the trash pickup on September 21st along Trenton Road. There were 15 volunteers. They collected about 350 pounds of trash. That included 18 bags of trash, 6 cans of paint, and 1 complete exhaust system from a 1990 GM-type vehicle. Thank you to those volunteers. And the next EAC-led community project is going to be the garden cleanup at the Senior Center. That's October 26th from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. The garden's out back. Stalks are composted and the garden is prepped for the winter. So if you or your group are interested in helping, please contact the Park and Rec Department and they can help you get involved. So thank you to the EAC and everybody who volunteered. And with that, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second?
We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.